2025 has 1930s vibes about it, but there's a fundamental difference between now and then. Let's talk about nuclear weapons. There are 193 countries in the United Nations, but only 9 have nuclear weapons. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, which are the US, the UK, France, China and Russia, as well as India, Pakistan, Israel and North Korea. Nuclear technology isn't just another weapon. In 1945, within 12 days of taking office, President Truman was warned by 2 of his leading scientific advisors that nuclear power represented a revolutionary change in the relationship between humans and the universe. Despite this, some academics argue that nuclear weapons make the world more peaceful by preventing wars between nuclear states. From this perspective, nuclear weapons can act as a deterrent. If a state has second strike capabilities, it would be mutually assured destruction, which is aptly shortened to MAD, to go to war with them. Because even after you have conducted a nuclear strike against them, they could strike against you. Kenneth Waltz took this logic and argued that Iran should be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. He thought this would bring more stability to the Middle East because it would create a bipolar nuclear balance between Iran and Israel. For critics, there are a huge number of reasons why we should seek to ban the bomb. First and foremost is the horror of the war itself and the devastating consequences for survivors. Just read the harrowing account of a 13-year-old that survived the US atomic bombing of Hiroshima. There are, of course, nuclear meltdowns as witnessed in Chernobyl, with long-lasting devastating implications. Maintaining nuclear arsenals costs tens of billions of dollars that they argue could be better spent elsewhere. What if governments lost control of nuclear weapons to a terrorist organisation or a cyber attack? Perhaps most worryingly, nuclear deterrence may fail because of something as simple as human error. Let me tell you a short story about the man who saved the world. On October the 27th, 1962, a Soviet Union nuclear submarine near Cuba has not heard from Moscow in days. The captain of the submarine draws the conclusion that Moscow must have come under nuclear attack from the US. He wants to launch a nuclear strike, but to do so, he needs to get the authorization from officers on board. One man, Vasily Arkhipov, votes against this, and they do not conduct a nuclear strike against the US. Of course, they soon found out that Moscow wasn't under nuclear attack. They just lost radio connection. 40 years later, the director of the US National Security Archive described him as the man who saved the world. This is just one of many examples we now know about where humankind as we know it has hinged upon the decision made by a very small number of individuals. So what does all this have to do with the here and now? Well, as tensions mount between great powers, it may be that for whatever reason, nuclear deterrent fails and civilization ends as we know it. But I'm holding on to the idea that it would be mad to start a nuclear war, and it may just be that this technology prevents World War III.